Okay, good morning to you. First, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Al-Udainy. Before proceeding in our presentation, we would like to thank the British Council for giving us such opportunity of being participant or members of this program, Teaching for Success. And actually, it was a great help to us as teachers and, as human beings.
Okay, and we would like to thank Mr. Muhammad and tell him that he's really missed, and inshallah the next time he will be among us safe and sound.
And now we will proceed in our presentation by reading this quote. By doubting, we are led to question. By questioning, we arrive at the truth.
Okay. I think we don't have to take everything for granted. We have to question everything. Okay.
And now we will start with the first strategy, which is, effective questioning. Actually, what is effective questioning? Effective questioning is a key tool in assessment for learning.
It is a key tool in assessment for learning strategies that should be planned and carefully constructed, as good questions lead learner on a journey to balance between the content and the process.
All right, the second slide is about the types of question. As we all know, we have so many types of question, but today we're going to talk about, closed question, which is, they are actually very useful to check people's memory and recall of facts. Also, typically, there is only one right answer. So when you ask, for example, what is the capital of Cairo, there is only one answer. Who discovered penicillin? When was the Battle of London? What are the characteristics of living things? The second type is
open questions. Actually, all open questions have more than one response. They don't have specific answers. Okay. And they promote students' thinking skills and develop their, inner criteria of thinking and critical thinking. Actually, examples of such questions are, what do you think will happen next when explaining, for example, a story? How are you going to remember how to spell the word friend? Why might some birds mate for life? What are the pros and cons, for example, of planning an essay?
Right. And the next slide is about why is effective questioning important, right? It is important because it's a key aspect of teaching and learning process, as the kinds of questions we ask to determine the level of thinking we develop. Lessons that incorporate questions are more effective in raising attainment than lessons which do not. Good questioning requires time for people to think and respond. Because such kind of question, you need to give your students some time to think in order to be able to give you a response. And the more learners are actively engaged in learning, the less scope there is to switch off. So if the questions are interesting to students, they will not have time, to think about other things. They will be involved in your lesson.
The characteristics of effective questioning, good questions are purposeful and promote learning. So when asking a question, you have to think deeply about the value of these questions and how these questions are going to promote students' thinking skills and critical thinking. How teacher responds to incorrect answer is critical. It may be difficult for teachers to, let's say, always encourage students if they give incorrect answers, and how they can tell them that this answer is incorrect in a very gentle way.
So now we are going to talk about ideas to put questioning into practice. So questioning and discussion, think, pair, share, and we all, are acquainted with this strategy, and we use it at our schools. So it is about, you make your students to think individually, then they share. So they discuss the ideas, and eventually, they share their ideas with the whole class. And here, my colleague Isra is going to implement it with you as you are going to be or to wear the cap of the student.
Actually, we didn't take photos or record videos of these strategies in our classes. We decided to implement them here with you,
To make it more clear,
Yes. So you are going to be in the shoes of the students, and we have this story. So please have 2 minutes to read this story.
You know it, right?
Have you finished? Now the question is, what is the moral message you get from this story? Now you're going to think individually about this message.
The moral or
The
the
moral
value?
message. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now share your ideas with your partner. Sorry, okay. Have you finished? And now we're going to share your ideas to the whole class. So who would like to start? What is the moral message you get from this story? Yes, Yasmin.
I think the main idea is that we shouldn't be greedy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yasmin. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Enas.
Think before you do. Be clever and think before you do.
Concise and precise. Thank you.
Right, now we are going to talk about effective feedback. You know, feedback is important in our work as teachers, and sometimes, you know, we use one way to give students feedback. So this module give us some insights how to give your students many ways of effective feedback. So it is the process in which your students come together with their teachers to discuss where they are in their learning and where they want to be in their learning and how they are going to get there. Right? It's a circle. So it usually involves looking at a particular piece of work done by learner. Feedback can be described as the bridge between teaching and learning. You know, it is crucial and very important, and it works as the bridge between the teacher and the students.
The aims and objectives of any assignment must, there must be there, agreed amongst criteria of success between the teacher and his students, and her students. So students can understand, depending on what criteria they are going to be assessed, or they are going to be judged, and eventually be given grades.
All right, so feedback might involve marking. You know, like in our classes, the only way we give our students feedback is through marking, and this is not so true, you know. And even if you try to give your students ways to improve, they will not listen to you. They will just look at the mark, and this is, you know, their assessment. So here are ways to give your students feedback. Marking, it will be, you know, later on. So you might give your students a piece of work with a comment or a feedback. Then the second step, you give them the mark. So they will pay more attention for the things they need to improve next time. Yes.
And here we're going to talk about two kinds of feedback. One is effective, and the other one is to avoid while assessing students. Praise makes you feel good. Critique makes you counter. So the first type of feedback is ego-focused feedback, and the second one is task-focused feedback. So one focuses on the personality of the learner, and the other focuses on the learner's work. Okay? So the first one, ego-focused feedback. An example of ego-focused feedback, for example, when you tell a student, great work, Melanie, the best in the class. So you're the best in the class. Now here the teacher gives comments about whom? About the learner, not about the work, okay? So this kind of feedback can make strong learners, complacent, full of themselves, thinking that they do not have anything to do to improve, so they're perfect. Now they might also be scared of trying something they find difficult in case they lose their high place. So by giving them this kind of comments, yes, they think that they are perfect and there is no room for improvement, and they will be scared to try anything difficult in order not to lose that high place the teacher put them in it.
I think teachers must avoid such kind of.
Of course, this is the example to avoid, of course, or the type to avoid. And at the same time, weak learners can feel as if there is nothing they can do to improve themselves. And the model of or the effective feedback that we advise teachers to use is
the first type that should be avoided by teachers. The second type is preferable to use it because you are going like to give students feedback on their own work, not on their own character, so they will feel like, as she said, full of themselves. They will feel not only proud, maybe overconfident. They become more confident with themselves. So you should aim to provide feedback to each learner that praises task-focused aspect, and this is the most important point of their work, but also contains targets about how to improve their learning. For example, Ali, you have written a good introduction to your story. Now you can think how you can make the description of the main character more striking. So you give, your feedback about the piece of work.
And students feel that there is something to be improved, to be worked on. Ideas to put feedback in practice. Feedback from the teacher comment only marking. To give them the feedback by just giving them the comments, whether to improve their work or like to praise their work. So what is it? When marking learners' homework or assignments, give a constructive comment instead of giving a grade and a comment or only a grade.
Yeah, again, it is a stress here not to give at first the grades, to give comment first, then the grades.
It is advised to be delayed, the grade.
All right, and now we will move to the second part of our presentation, which is about, self and peer assessment strategies.
Right. No amount of experimentation can ever prove me right. A single experiment can prove me wrong.
And this is so true actually, because when you make your students actually self and peer assess, you make them practice. By practicing, they can create their self criteria. They can develop and create their own criteria. And they can decide eventually what is wrong and what is right and what good work should look like, right? So first we're going to define self and peer assessment. It is all about revision and improvement, and students independently self-assess, and they assess the other students' work. Sorry? Yes. Other students work with confidence, and the most important point here, they do not rely much on the teacher. They start, to become more independent and more autonomous. When students self and peer assess, they are actively involved in the learning process. So it's not so much about the teacher and what he does in the classroom. It is about the students themselves. They work, they assess, they create their own criteria. But one important point here to stress it is you have to give your students these criteria. So
agree on that.
Yes, correct.
Effective self and peer assessment requires the following: examiners clearly illustrating what is being learned, a clear and specific success criteria that should be agreed upon between the teacher and the students on manageable chunks of learning, opportunities for students to identify success and a place for improvement. Yani, what did they write and what need to be improved, and opportunities for students to make improvements independently, and this is what we are after, to build autonomous learners.
Alright, so you have to model first and show other students' work to improve modeling, to model in front of your students again. Then you can make them assess themselves, then work with their partners. So self and peer assessment enables the students to ask, answer the following questions. How is my or our learning is going?
What's in it for students and teachers? Students are able to assess their own and others' progress with confidence rather than always relying on teachers' judgment. Students become more independent and motivated to learning. Students are actively involved in the learning process. As you know, the criteria of success is clear for them to follow.
Yeah. And one more time, we need to stress and focus on this point. Self and peer assessment must always be against clearly established criteria, as also Iman mentioned in her presentation. Students need to know what good work should look like and have clear and specific success criteria against which they can assess their work.
And in order to succeed in establishing or in constructing such strategies in students is first to teach them how to do or how to self-assess and how to peer assess, to model it and scaffold them when necessary. It is not about right or wrong, but rather learning and improvement. This may be an essential shift for some students.
Alright, and now we are going to talk about some quick and easy strategies for self and peer assessment. And of course, I haven't, I tried them at school, but we try to implement some of these strategies here to make them more easier for you to observe and understand.
Okay. So the first strategy to start with is 2 stars and a wish. I think you're familiar with it. Now Wafa is going to do a task with you, and you're going to assess each other's work. Now you're going to read your peer or your partner's work and give them or talk about 2 good points in his or her writing, and to give them a point that need to be improved in the coming times. Okay? Yes.
Alright, so you are going, of course, to where the head of the student. And as we have studied in the previous lecture, in the previous class, because I used to talk about university, all right. In the previous class about the mechanics of writing a short paragraph. To write a good paragraph, we start with a. We start with what?
What do we call
the first sentence? What we call the first sentence?
In a paragraph.
A topic sentence. A topic sentence. Then we complete with a group of supporting sentences, and we end the paragraph by a concluding sentence. Yes. And of course, don't forget to start your paragraph with the capital letter, and you end each sentence with a full stop. And try to make your sentences short and clear. Now I'm going to ask you to write a short paragraph about your favorite cartoon, right? Here is a piece of writing. You are going to imitate it, right? Can you start please writing a short paragraph about your favorite cartoon? You're going to look at this example and imitate it, right? Now I'm going to give you a form. In this form, you are going to put 2 stars for the things you like in your peer work, and the wish for the things you want him to improve it for the next time, right? you are going to read each other's paragraph in order to be able to evaluate it, right? So switch the papers. Yeah, thank you. Have you switched the paper? Can you start writing this form? All right, have you finished? Have you finished? If you finish, just please raise your hand. Okay, good enough. Ines, can you please read us your feedback?
It's the feedback of Khadija's work.
Yes.
Khadija is in the 6th grade actually.
Yeah.
So,
The first star I give her is that she wrote a good topic sentence. The topic sentence is clear. And also the second star is her supporting sentences also are clear. My wish for her is to improve her handwriting next time.
right. Okay, thank you so much. Clap for her. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. So, you understand the strategy. Thank you so much. The second strategy is
Thumbs up and thumbs down. What is distinguished about this strategy that it can give immediate indications to the teacher whether the students get the point or not. So they can raise their thumbs up if they understand the point, thumbs down if they don't understand it, thumbs side away if they understand some part of the lesson. Yeah. All right. Here is, how you can do it, the formula.
all right. The third one is traffic light, and you may be familiar with this strategy. So if the light, if they raise red light, so they don't understand if the light is amber, it means that improvement is needed, and if it's green, it means that they totally get it. The last strategy.
The smiley faces. Students can draw this smiley face if they are ready to move on, they understand the lesson. This face if they understand some part of the lesson, and this sad face if they don't get it at all.
All right. This was our presentation. So thank you so much for this.